It was the first day of the new year when something about this story didn't add up. A husband reported his wife missing. He said she had left early in the morning for a work emergency and never came back. But as investigators began looking closer, they discovered something chilling. Almost every detail of his story was a lie. And soon, the quiet suburban home of Brian Walshe would become the center of one of the most disturbing murder investigations in recent memory. The case of his missing wife, Ana Walshe. This is the story behind the Brian Walshe murder trial. Brian and Ana Walshe appeared to live a comfortable life in Massachusetts. Ana was a successful real estate professional who worked between Boston and Washington, D.C. She was known as ambitious, organized, and devoted to her 3 young children. Brian, on the other hand, had a very different reputation. Years earlier, he had been accused of selling fake paintings, including works falsely attributed to famous artists. By 2023, he was already facing federal charges connected to that art fraud case. Still, from the outside, the family seemed normal. They lived in a quiet neighborhood. They had children together. And, like many families, they were preparing to start a new year. But behind closed doors, the relationship was reportedly under serious strain. And on January 1st, 2023, everything changed. That morning, Brian Walshe called authorities with a concerning report. He said his wife had suddenly left the house around 4 a.m. to deal with a work emergency in Washington, D.C. According to him, she never returned. At first, the situation looked like a typical missing person case, but detectives quickly began noticing inconsistencies. Ana's phone had stopped responding. Her coworkers said they had no idea about any emergency meeting, and security cameras in the area showed no sign of her leaving when Brian claimed she did. Investigators began digging deeper. Then, they looked at Brian's internet searches. What they found raised serious alarm. In the days after Ana disappeared, someone using Brian's computer had searched for things like how to dispose of a body, how long DNA lasts, and other disturbing topics related to covering up a crime. Suddenly, the missing person case took a much darker turn. As police continued investigating, they started collecting physical evidence. Surveillance footage showed Brian visiting multiple stores in the days after Ana vanished. Investigators said he bought items like cleaning supplies, trash bags, and other materials that could be used to destroy evidence. More troubling discoveries followed. Authorities later recovered items from trash facilities that reportedly contained traces of blood and personal belongings connected to Ana. At that point, investigators believed they were no longer searching for a missing person. They were investigating a murder. Brian Walshe was arrested and charged, and the story that had started as a mysterious disappearance now became a national headline. As the case moved toward trial, prosecutors built their argument piece by piece. They claimed Brian had killed Ana inside their home after an argument, possibly connected to financial stress, legal troubles, and pressure from his fraud case. According to investigators, the internet searches, store purchases, and disposal of items formed a timeline that pointed directly to him. But the defense pushed back. They argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that no complete body had been recovered. Without that, they said, the prosecution's story relied heavily on interpretation rather than direct proof. The trial became a legal battle over digital evidence, forensic clues, and behavior after the disappearance. And while the courtroom examined every detail, the biggest tragedy remained at the center of it all: 3 children who had lost their mother. Cases like this often leave more questions than answers. How can someone living what looks like a normal life hide something so dark? How do investigators piece together the truth when key evidence is missing? And how much can digital footprints, things like searches, purchases, and movements, reveal about what really happened? For many people watching the case unfold, The Brian Walshe trial became a reminder of how modern investigations work. Sometimes the most powerful clues aren't fingerprints or eyewitnesses. Sometimes they're the quiet traces people leave behind online. The story of Ana Walshe is still remembered not just for the mystery surrounding her disappearance, but for the life she lived before it, as a mother, a professional, and someone whose future was suddenly taken away. And the trial of Brian Walshe continues to raise a difficult question. How well do we truly know the people closest to us? Because sometimes the most unsettling stories begin in places that appear perfectly ordinary, and by the time the truth starts to surface, it's already too late.